All right, so we're continuing Pirkei in Pirkei Avot. There's a word in Hebrew that many of you perhaps came across it. It's called hashkafa. Hashkafa from the word mashkif, to look over, to see from a distance. When one is on top of a mountain, he's mashkif. He looks at the landscape, he looks at the view, he looks from far, and his view is broad, relatively. In Hebrew, when we say hashkafa, the word hashkafa is also used to describe outlook and perspective, viewpoint. And in Judaism, it's an important term because it tells us what the Torah wants us to see. When we see something, what the Torah wants us to see in it. What our perspective should be about life. What our outlook should be about certain issues. You know, one of my children just asked me, they're supposed to be on the ballot. Are we for or against the death penalty? Was it on the ballot? No, I don't vote. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that would depend on the Torah's hashkafa. It is not so much a question of halakha now, because they don't follow the halakha of the Torah. It's more of a question of hashkafa. How does the Torah look at crime, look at killings and murder? And we see instances of the death penalty in the Torah. And the Torah's view on death penalty is that it's supposed to accomplish two things. As long as the individual has for sure committed a wrong, one thing is uviartara mikirbecha, to remove all the evil from your midst. We must demonstrate that we do not tolerate murder, that we do not agree with it, that blood is not cheap, that we take it seriously. Human life, regardless of who this human being is precious. Hashem gave us life regardless of whether one is rich, poor, Jew, non-Jew, makes no difference. A human being has something called the image of God. And we have to be very careful not to hurt them, not to hurt anyone. But there are instances where the Torah prescribes the death penalty, but not necessarily encourages it. Go for it. And on the contrary, you have to be very careful that you don't make a mistake, and it was rarely carried out. Because the conditions that needed to be met to carry out the death penalty were not always there. There had to be two witnesses. They have to have warned him that it's asur. You're going to get killed. And we know for sure he has to have committed it willingly, intentionally. He was healthy in the mind, right? He knew what he was doing. So if one of those conditions are missing, then you cannot give him the death penalty. Will he pay for his crime? Yes. Hashem takes over the jurisdiction. We no longer have the jurisdiction. The death penalty in itself is an atonement. It's not a punishment per se. Because when we talk about punishment, we're talking about a kapara, a tikkun for the individual, a tikkun for the world, right? So we look at it completely different than the non-Jewish world. Our hashkafa, or in some instances we would use the term da'at Torah, the view of the Torah, the view of the rabbis would be so and so in a particular situation. It's important for us to know it because today in Israel there are lots and lots of disagreement, lots of division, unfortunately, even amongst those who are observant, different rabbis, different opinions. And really, we know that opinions can be as many as hundreds. I mean, there's no limit to opinions. But what's important is, what does the Torah say? What's the hashkafa of the Torah regarding Eretz Israel, regarding the military, regarding receiving help from Uncle Sam, regarding the elections? How should we react to all this? So there is a certain hashkafa. And I'm not going to get into all of these questions because, We're not dealing with them right now, but one of them, I want to tell you, is that it makes no difference who the president really is, because the leader of a country is always in the hands of Hashem. His free will is limited. Even though we may have preferences because of what we think or who we believe will be better for us, we're always told to pray nonetheless, because the power is not vested in the president himself, it's vested in Congress in this country. And they can make much more of a difference than the president, even though he sets the tone, and it's very important who he is, whether he's a capable leader or not. Obviously, all of this affects the world affairs, but let's not forget, he runs the show. So these are not individual decisions that he or any dictator or king in the world will make. These are Hashem's decisions. This is very, very different than people making decisions. So here is a small example, but an important example of hashkafa, how we look at it. Hashkafa, therefore, is something that needs to be learned. We don't always know what the Torah says about something. And Pirkei Avot, even though it was written so long ago, contains within it advice, counsel, hashkafa, the proper outlook of how we view certain things. What's the best approach in dealing with certain problems, in dealing with certain difficult people. We saw a little bit of that in Mishlei, we saw it in Kohelet. Wisdom, a lot of wisdom, experience, and this is knowledge that is eternal. This does not change with times. We're talking about humanity, we're talking about personalities, we're talking about the frailty of the human being, that he can succumb to his desires. We all have weaknesses, and therefore it's important to stay focused on what is right and what is wrong. So we should have clarity in what is the correct thing and what is not. Mishnah Hey therefore discusses learning of Torah. Well, what could be wrong with that? Well, it depends why you learn. So here we're going to be talking about something that appears to be universally accepted, that this is good, to learn Torah. That's what the emphasis is being. Quite a bit, how important it is to learn Torah, how time is short, don't waste your time, do what's right. Well, learning Torah, there's no doubt about it. What could be wrong with learning Torah? So it's surprising that when we come across the words of Rabbi Ishmael, we find that there may be different kinds of learning, especially after the words of Rabbi Ishmael, in the next Mishnah, or towards the end of this Mishnah. We find that there are various approaches, different ways people learn Torah. So even though this is something very valuable, very noble, there can be mistakes made in one's approach for learning Torah. So what is the correct approach? So we begin with the positive. Rabbi Ishmael beno omer halomed al menat lelamed, whoever teaches with the intent, whoever learns Torah with the intent to teach, maspikim biyado lilmod ulelamed, they will assist him from heaven that he should accomplish that. He should learn and be able to teach. Very nice. What did we just say? We just said that somebody who has the right frame of mind, the right ideas, will receive divine assistance for it, depending what's involved. V'alomed al menat la'asot, there's a higher level, one who learns with the intent to do, to perform mitzvot, to accomplish, not just to teach, or not just to learn, to acquire knowledge, but to really do things right. He learns halachot, so he should know how to perform, how to be a Jew. So with him, maspikim biyado lilmod ulelamed lishmor v'la'asot. They will assist him that he should accomplish and he should manage to achieve a great deal. That is to learn and to teach, to observe and to do. So what's going on over here? We're obviously being introduced to a right form or a right approach to learning, but there's much more than that here. Rabbi Ishmael is giving us very good advice. What's one of the best advice to accomplish? A lot of people have grandiose plans. They have an interest, they have a desire. They really mean it, they're sincere. They want to accomplish. They never get around to it. Every time it's mañana. Every time something interferes, every time something just throws them off, distracts them, they never get around to it. Before you know it, the year is over. I'm sure this has happened to you. You wanted to do something, you never got around to it. The year went by, I said, wow, a whole year went by, I didn't get to it yet. One of the ways that I find, and we've spoken about it, when we spoke about midot, the series of character development, we spoke about all kinds of characteristics, laziness, right, stinginess, right, remember those? So we spoke about how to cure them, well not exactly cure, but how to deal with them, how to work with them. One of the ways for people who have a problem of procrastination, everybody here knows what procrastination means, right? He's doche, he pushes off for tomorrow. You know, they say don't push off for tomorrow what you can do today. Well, he does. What do you do about it? Well, one of the ways to not procrastinate, hopefully, there's more than one idea, but this is just one, is make a list. Make a list of what you want to do this week, this month, this year. And you know it's an incredibly good feeling every time you finish something and you get to cross off one item of the list. Gone. You look at the whole paper, great, garbage can. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great feeling if you really do it. What did we just do? We wrote it down on a piece of paper. How did that help us? Focus. Glasses help us focus, right? So we can see better with more clarity. This helps us focus. It reminds us. It organizes. So it's an organization, it's a focus, and it's a reminder. We all need those three. So here Rabbi Ishmael is telling us not only what to aim for, not only what is correct, but hatzavat matara, as we would call it in Hebrew, setting goals. Halomed al menat lelamed is setting a goal. Why do I want to learn? I want to teach. I want to give, or I want to share with others. Beautiful. Good. That's the right way to learn. Why should we set a goal with learning? Not so much only to accomplish, to learn a lot, but because you want to have clarity as to why you're learning. Otherwise, after a month or two, somebody in the yeshiva may go through what they call in Israel, mashber. Mashber means he's depressed. He's losing his engagé, right? His motivation, right? He's no longer interested. What do I need this for? I'm tired, it's so boring, it's dull. What is this for? Is it really for me? Maybe I should be doing something else. All of a sudden, thoughts, one after another, come crossing his mind. People see him daydreaming, people may see this individual falling asleep. What's going on with you? Because he's not focused. He hasn't set a goal. This is what I need to accomplish. This is what I'm here for. This is why I need to learn. When one has a goal, he hopefully has more clarity. He knows what his tachlit is. What does he want to accomplish here? Very, very important idea here. So Rabbi Ishmael, you wouldn't see it. When you learn it, you wouldn't think he's talking about that. Because he's telling us, listen, learning should be done for the right reasons. Yeah, but it's more than that. Learning in itself should be a goal. And the way to make learning a goal is to know why you're learning. I'm learning al menat lelamed. I'm learning al menat la'asot. I'm learning Hilchot Shabbat, so I should know how to keep Shabbat. I'm learning so I should be able to help others with it. This way, one can accomplish a lot more and at the same time be more successful in attaining his goal. As he goes along, of course, what will guarantee his success? Not just the clarity that he has, but siyata d'shmaya. So Rabbi Ishmael also tells us a chidush here. It's not only the clarity that you will gain. This is all included. But you know what? You're going to get divine assistance. We're not talking about selling shoes or some business that everything is completely usually dependent on mazal. it's usually strictly I mean, Hashem helps too, of course. Hashem helps. Hashem is always involved, especially with the Jewish people. There is such a thing as beracha, and so forth. Hashem guides us all the time. There's ashgacha pratit. There's divine providence on us, and He eventually gets involved one way or another. But when it comes to dvarim ruchanim, spiritual things, it's even much more important. It's even much more. There's more of an involvement of Shamayim. Oh, you want to do a mitzvah? Oh, you want to do something good? I'll help you out, Hashem says. So, maspikim bi'adol limod, somebody wants to do teshuvah, for example. Hashem says, you want to? You're not by yourself, don't worry. It's not going to be only your effort. I'll help you. It's not going to be easy. It's still going to be hard. You're going to have your whole family perhaps against you. You're going to have your whole neighbors making fun of you. You're going to have a lot of people looking at you funny. Yeah, maybe, possibly. I'll help you. You're not by yourself. So when it comes to something spiritual, maspikim bi'adol lilmod u'lelamed. When it comes to learning al minat la'asot, which is a higher level, a bigger goal, I want to do, I want to accomplish, then Hashem says, you know what? I'm going to give you even more assistance. Lilmod u'lelamed ishmor v'la'asot, you can accomplish a lot more. In other words, the siyata d'shmaya, the divine assistance will be even more. What do we need the divine assistance here for? Why is He telling us this? Rabbi Shmuel is telling us, don't worry so much, you'll accomplish. Not that it says anywhere that you should be worried, but Rabbi Shmuel is letting us know it's a beautiful thing. The hashkafa here is, go ahead. You have nothing to fear, you'll be helped. That's very good. And the reason why it makes us feel good, and that why it's important to know this piece of information, is because any time it comes to dvarim ruchanim, I have some news to tell you. Anytime you want to accomplish a beautiful mitzvah, not just a small mitzvah, a beautiful, big mitzvah, the Yetzer Hara is going to try to stop you. He's going to try to interfere with you. Come on, you're tired, don't do it. Leave it to someone else, right? Why do that? Push it off, do it another day. All kinds of excuses. I mean, he has a thick book of excuses that he uses on us all the time. All kinds of things. You've already done this before. He owes it to you. You don't owe it to him. It's incredible how people can be creative and refuse to do something that is really a big mitzvah. It's not such a big thing anyway. I've already done it once. I've got something more important to do. Really? Is it really more important than that? Right? Did you ask a rabbi or a third person? Which one is more important? So it's very tricky. It's a big mitzvah, and his job, it's Yetzer Hara he's created. His job is to dissuade us, to discourage us, to break us, to stop us from doing the mitzvah. That's his job, and he works very hard at it. And unfortunately, he succeeds too many times. So here, because there's a Yetzer Hara involved, Hashem says, don't worry, I'm going to help you. I have to help you. Without my help, you wouldn't do it. It would be more difficult. So that is why it says here, it emphasizes here, Hashem will help those who involve themselves, who make an effort to do something ruchani, which is to learn. And the greater the goal, which is la'asot, not just lilmod u'lamed. In other words, lishmor la'asot u'lekayem. In other words, you want to do a lot more than just to learn and teach. You really want to accomplish, you really want to do, to observe. Hashem will help you in all those areas. The ultimate tachlit of learning is la'asot. As the rabbis tell us, gadol ha-talmud shemevi lidei ma'aseh. The Talmud is great. Learning is so important, not for itself, but for what it brings about. What does learning bring about? It encourages us to want to do. It reminds us, it awakens us. Without the learning, people just forget about it. People are not focused, people don't think about something. So gadol ha-talmud, learning is not only good because we acquire knowledge, but it is the one that will lead us to do things, to do mitzvot, to perform. So obviously, if the kavanah is correct, the kavanah means one's intention, one's motivation and drive is for the real thing, then he will receive divine assistance. Before we go on to the second part of the Mishnah, there is A ma'amar chazal, there is a saying that the rabbis share with us that goes as follows. לעולם ילמד אדם תורה שלא לשמה, שמתוך שלא לשמה יבוא לשמה. It is permissible and it's good and okay and acceptable to learn Torah not for its real sake. Learn Torah because you just want to be knowledgeable. That would be an example of lo lishma. Why do you want to learn Torah? Just to know it. Go ahead, fine. Learn it. Even though that's not for its real sake. Its real sake is because Hashem said so. Because Hashem wants me to be closer to Him. Hashem wants me to be familiar with His Torah so that I should know what to do. And so forth. It is the real reason. The Rabbi says, go ahead and learn Torah even if it's not for the real reason. For whatever reason you want to have, as long as it's normal, reasonable reason. To be knowledgeable. Why? Because the rabbis said like this, we're confident that when somebody learns Torah, enough of it, even if it's not for the real reason, eventually he will learn for the real reason. He'll see how beautiful it is as he goes along. And that's why I tell all those who are not religious, including the Reform and Conservative, if they learn the whole Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, Midrashim, Zohar, Halacha, Kabbalah, right? If they begin to learn all this Torah without any preconceptions, that is, that's very important, no preconceptions, there's an excellent chance that they will gain enough Yirat Shamayim, enough fear of heaven from all that they will absorb, that will prompt them to begin doing, to begin performing mitzvot, to begin learning for the real reason. Because that's what the Torah is going to do to them. It's going to inspire them. As long as there's no preconception. A person starts off with bad, negative preconceptions, he's brainwashed. That's very difficult for the Torah to inspire him. He starts off with an open mind, and he goes through it, goes through a lot of it. Doesn't have to go through all the Torah. A good portion of the Torah. He will be amazed. He will be inspired. He will see, wow, what chokhmah, what wisdom, what knowledge, what beauty, right? It will inspire him. So that is why the Chachamim said, it's okay, we tolerate it. It's fine, it's acceptable. Learn Torah shelo lishma. It's not for its real sake. But eventually, as long as you keep on going, you will learn it lishma. In other words, as we call it in Hebrew, Torah shelo lishma will serve at least as a keresh kfitza, as a springboard. It's a springboard unto Torah lishma. It does serve a purpose. It's not just for nothing. However, there is an important difference between Torah shelo lishma and Torah lishma. Nonetheless, even though it will be a keresh kfitza, it will help him at some point. When a person learns Torah shelo lishma, he does not have the protection that the Torah lishma offers. When the rabbis tell us HaTorah magana umasla, that the Torah protects and protects us from Yetzer Hara, saves us from all kinds of misfortunes. That's the koach of the Torah. If somebody has that merit of learning Torah, the Torah protects him from all kinds of things. Even while he's not learning it. He just left the shiur. There's some degree of protection. That's only Torah lishma. Person learn Torah lishma, he has enough strength in his batteries, in his spiritual batteries, to fight off the Yetzer Hara. If he does not learn Torah lishma, he doesn't have that kind of strength. He didn't learn Torah lishma. So even though it's okay to learn Torah shelo lishma because it's a springboard, a keresh kfitza to get to Torah lishma, it does not offer, I believe the Chaim Volozhin says this, it does not offer the same segulot, the same qualities as Torah lishma has to offer. Protection, real strong protection. So therefore, what we see is that the greater the goal is, the more it is lishma, the more he wants to really learn because he wants to accomplish, then obviously that that's going to bring about a greater assistance from upstairs. There are, however, individuals who are concerned. What's their concern? If I learn so many hours, what's going to be with my kids? If I give of myself to the community, who's going to take care of my kids? And when am I going to learn for myself? You know, there are people who are doers. They really help out in all kinds of ways. People in different capacities. Baruch Hashem, they're gifted either in helping others with food or other kinds of assistance or in teaching, all kinds. I mean, chesed is very large. So here you have somebody who's very helpful to others. And he has a dilemma. What's going to be with his Shiurei Torah? What's going to be with his kids? Good question. So the Khatam Sofer, I saw, says as follows, on the Pasuk in Tehillim. There's a Pasuk in chapter 37, Lamed Zayin Tehillim, that says, Kol hayom chonenu malveh vezar'o livracha. A whole day, an individual may be chonen umalveh. He's lending money to others, he's kind to others, he has pity on others. Kol hayom, the whole day, chonen umalveh. He's doing only good for others. What's going to be with his kid? V'zar'o livracha. Don't worry about it. That's how he interprets those words, even though David HaMelech is talking about something a little bit different. Nonetheless, it is in those words. The message is there. Such an individual, his kids will be blessed. His kids will not suffer as a result of the father doing for others. Don't worry. Obviously, you have to find the time, even a little bit, to take care of yourself, to learn, and to learn with your kids. But don't worry if you don't do it as much as you would love to, because Hashem takes care of them. Even though when it comes to other professions, the famous saying, the carpenter's door is hanging loose, in Arabic and I think in Farsi too, right? The carpenter's door, right, is hanging, right? He's a carpenter, right? Or the shoemaker's kids walk barefoot. You know, we sometimes wonder, he of all people, his kids, not when it comes to Torah and Chesed, person who's involved in Torah Chesed, his kids will not be deprived. It's a very, very, very important thing to know. It's a guarantee. Hashem will help him. And what about his learning? The commentaries explain. Hashem yiftach et libo. Hashem will open up his heart that he should be able to learn and advance in his learning, lechadesh chidushim, to gain greater insights into Torah, even though he didn't delve into it deeply. You know, sometimes it takes a lot of time and effort to get to understand something. Hashem will give him extra help that he should be able to figure it out and he should be able to succeed in his learning. All right, so this is the right approach to learning. What's the wrong approach? The wrong approach is, Rabbi Tzadok omer, al ta'asem atara litgadel bahem. Be careful, do not use the Torah for your own benefit, as a crown to aggrandize yourself. You know, to make yourself a big shot, to elevate yourself to some high position because of that, to show off with it. Be careful with that. Lo kardom lachpor bahem, neither should you use it as a kardom. Kardom is like a hammer or like a spade. Lachpor bahem, to dig. In other words, don't use it as a tool to abuse others. Just because you have the knowledge, you have the power. No. It's not right. You have to be careful. The Torah was not given to you to misuse it in the wrong way, in a disrespectful way, in an abusive way. That don't do. In other words, you have to be careful not to use it for your own gain, personal gain. Throughout history, unfortunately, we see this phenomena. This very unfortunate phenomena that people have done all kinds of things involving mitzvot for their own gain. The famous one, or the infamous one, is during the Second Temple era, where Kohanim bought the priesthood to be the Kohen Gadol. even though they were not qualified. To be the Kohen Gadol was a very prestigious job and position. It was a form of leadership. Everybody wanted it. Yes?
Even though they would be killed
Right, even though they would die the following year, they would not last because they went into the Kodesh HaKodashim. Right? That is why you had 318 Kohanim Dolim in the Second Temple in 420 years. About 300 or something like that. Yeah, 300 or 300. Almost every year. And in the First Temple, you only had about 18 in the entire 410 years. Because they lived out their whole life. The next one took over when the other one died. So they were corrupt. They bought it. They treated this as a business. That's a personal gain. And how many times have we heard of people in high positions, of Torah I'm talking about, that they should want to hire their relatives? Why don't you hire the most qualified person for the job? Oh, it's my son, my cousin, my nephew. But that's human nature. So he tells us, be careful with that. People make this mistake all the time. It should go to the most qualified person. Really. Don't we want the best people? Right? Don't we want the best people? Unfortunately, this country does not necessarily have all the time the most qualified president. You go through all the presidencies, from George Washington until today, not everyone was a very qualified person. And each one of them, of course, has a very, very different kind of story how he became president. Could be the first one was assassinated and he was the vice president. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of ways. It was his luck. It was all min hashamayim. The choice was always min hashamayim. But you'd be surprised. Some of them were goof-offs. I think that's the word in English. Guys who not serious. Some of them were real patriots, real leaders who cared about their country. Some of them were very intelligent. Some of them were very, very capable in many ways. But not everyone. But anyway, that's politics and that's elections. But when it comes to Torah, I mean, you could have two competent people that we have to decide, so you make a goral who will be. Yeah, that's different. But at least let him be qualified. Never, chas v'shalom, think of using the Torah as an atara, as a crown, or a kardom, lachfor, to use it against people, just because you have that knowledge. There was once an individual that came to the Chazon Ish. Zechet Tzadik Levracha, Chazon Ish asked him, what do you want to do in life? What do you want to be? He says, I want to be a teacher. He says, why do you want to be a teacher? Because I think it pays well. So the Chazon Ish says, go fetch yourself another job. You're not qualified to be a teacher. You want to do it because it pays well? You're teaching Jewish children Torah. You shouldn't think about money. If you're thinking about a profession that makes money, you shouldn't go into teaching. To teach, to give over to kids the Torah, you can't think of it as a money-making job. Go get yourself another job. You're not qualified for this. It has to be for the real reason. Otherwise, it's cheap. It's not right. Rabbis tell us that included in this, atara, not making it as a crown, is people who take money for teaching. You're not doing it for the real reason. But wait a minute, all the teachers charge. Tutors charge. Schools charge. The reason why it's permissible for them to charge, there's only one reason for the most part. And that is because at the time that they are teaching, they could be doing something else. And we need teachers, so we hire them. We say, you know what? Don't go and work as a businessman. Come and be a teacher. And we'll pay you what's called schar batala. Payment or compensation for being idle. In other words, for not working at your profession. You could be selling something. You could have a business, right? Or you sell, or whatever it is that you want to do. So we're taking you away because, as the rabbis tell us elsewhere, we saw b'makom she'en ish yishtadel liyot ish. If in the place there is nobody else to do it, then you be the one. Don't try to do it if you can help it. You don't want to depend on people. You don't want to have to come onto people. So it's good to learn a profession, so you can be somewhat independent. But if there's nobody else and you're qualified and you can do a good job, yeah, and you're the only one, there's not too many, go ahead and do it. And that would be schar batala, and that's mutar. Because you could have been doing something else. They're taking you away from that. Hillel used to say something very similar to Rabbi Tzadok. He said it in Aramaic. "Udishtamesh betaga halaf. Halamata kol hanehene midivre Torah notel chayav min haolam." Hillel used to say, whoever uses the taga is a kram, halaf. Halaf means that he's risking losing his life. Hashem may remove him from this world for using the Torah for his own personal gain, like we saw with the Kohanim. He loses all the protection. Right? His merit is very, very low. He doesn't really have too much merit. He's using it for his own personal gain, not for the kavod of Hashem or the kavod of the Torah. So he's risking losing his life. It's this is a dangerous proposition. According to the Kabbalah, Dishtamesh B'Taga talks about using Kabbalah. Using the Kabbalistic names of Hashem, that is even more risky, more dangerous. But either one, somebody who's not qualified or somebody who's uses it for personal gain, it's a very, very risky proposition. As he says, Alamata, you learn that Kol HaNeheneh Midivrei Torah, if you benefit from Divrei Torah, Notel Chayav Min HaOlam. He's taking his life away from this world. And from this world, from Olam Haba, depending exactly what he did. Or at least he loses his reward. In other words, he's not gaining anything. The Torah says, Kihem chayecha ve'orech yamecha. Right? We're taught that this is our life depends on the Torah. But that's if we learn Torah Lishma. If we don't learn Torah Lishma, then it will not prolong our life. It will not necessarily be there for us to save us. So that's why it's so important that one learn for the real reasons. As far as benefiting from the Torah, there were great rabbis, and we will talk about it very soon again. There were great rabbis who people gave them tremendous kavod. And rightfully so, they deserve it. But the rabbi himself who was being given kavod had to be very careful that that kavod should not get to his head. They think of him very highly, they pick him up in the chair, and whatever. Yeah. The Chafetz Chaim, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha, was a very humble man, very knowledgeable, big tzaddik, very, very righteous man, accepted throughout the whole Jewish world. And an incredible giant, not only for his time, even for previous generation, he would have been a giant. So you can imagine when one time he managed to slip into a city where no one knew that he was coming. And later people found out, and they felt bad that they did not know he was coming, because they really wanted to put out the red carpet for him, go greet him at the train station. So they felt bad, and they said, "Why didn't you let us know that you were coming? We would have treated you nicely. We wanted to give you this kavod." So to understand his answer, you have to know a little bit Yiddish. You have to understand. You not only have to know Yiddish, you have to understand the Ashkenaz mentality of back then. Today they wouldn't. You tell this to an Ashkenazi Jew, he wouldn't know what you're talking about. But I'll explain to you. The Chafetz Chaim says, "I'm sorry, but I don't eat tzimes on Friday." I'm sorry, he said, but I don't eat. No, they wanted to give him kavod, and he says, "But I'm sorry, I don't eat tzimes on Friday." What's tzimes? Anybody here know what tzimes is? Have you heard of it? No.
Food with the salad?
Yeah, how do you know?
Maybe with the Ashkenaz?
Oh, you've been, yeah. Okay. Very, very Ashkenazi Jews who are very traditional in their foods will occasionally, for Chagim, in special occasion, even the Shabbat, have something called tzimis. What's tzimis? So here goes the recipe approximately, the variations. Carrots, okay, with prunes, okay, with a little bit of orange juice possibly, or sugar water, which you boil on the fire altogether. Some use dried apricots instead of prunes, or both. And what all of this does to the carrot, which is the main dish here, is that it sweetens it, it gives it a very unique flavor, and it makes a glaze over it. So when you see it served on the table, it has a good aroma, sweet aroma, and it's like glazed. It's not just carrots. Right? Anyway, it's a sweet kind of dish. All right. Some people really like it. I don't eat it usually, but my wife likes to make it. So what is that? So he says, I don't eat tzimis on Friday. So they asked him, what do you mean? You know, these are Ashkenazi Jews asking him. So he says, let me explain to you what I mean. I once came home 12 o'clock Friday home. He arrived at home on a Friday, 12 o'clock noon, a couple hours before Shabbat, and I was very hungry. And I was smelling from the kitchen some tzimis. And I was very hungry, he says. And I asked my wife, can you please serve me a little bit of tzimis? So she told me, my dear husband, the tzimis are for Shabbat. You don't eat it on Friday. I made it specially for Shabbat. Obviously, more likely than not, she gave me something else to eat. So from that, he says, I learned something. Kavod, you know when we get kavod? On Shabbat, in Olam Haba, not in Olam Hazeh. Tzimis we don't eat on Friday, we eat it for Shabbat. Kavod you want to give me? Kavod is for Olam Haba, it's for Shabbat. Shabbat is Olam Haba. I don't want any kavod over here. Kavod is not for Friday. Kavod is for Shabbat, for Olam Haba. Right? That's why I don't eat tzimis on Friday. Next Mishnah. רבי יוסי אומר, כל המכבד את התורה גופו מכובד על הבריות. וכל המחלל את התורה גופו מחולל על הבריות. This is somewhat of a continuation. We're going to be doing a couple Mishnayot that are all more or less continuation. He tells us, Rabbi Yossi adds, that you can see results in this world of people who honored the Torah and people who were disrespectful of Torah. Those who honor the Torah will be respected, will receive tremendous respect in this world somehow. Those who are disrespectful of the Torah, somehow their bodies, their guf, will be mechulal ala briyot, will be very, very disrespected by people. Something will happen, very disrespectful to them. What's going on over here? First of all, Rabbi Yossi wants to impress upon us how important it is to respect the Torah. One who does not have kavod for the Torah, then he loses touch with the Torah. If the Torah is not meaningful to him, it doesn't mean anything, he doesn't honor it, he doesn't respect it, then chas v'shalom, God forbid, he can lose the connection that he should have with the Torah. What does it mean to respect the Torah? Well, first of all, it means several things. Number one, we must remember that Torah is min hashamayim, it's God-given. It's not just a book that was put together by a committee like some segments within Judaism would like to believe. So those segments have already done one of the most terrible sins, in showing an utter disrespect for our tradition by saying this is man-made. Or this is God-made, but he allowed us to change it. When he himself said, God, you can't change it. All right. In other words, they've been very disrespectful. It's important that we have the proper yachas towards it. The proper, I guess yachas we can say, what would be a good word for yachas in English? The proper relationship. How do we relate to the Torah? Very much with respect. For example, if a book falls to the floor, we pick it up and we kiss it. So we relate to it respectfully. The Sefer Torah we put in the Aron. We build a special cabinet some of them are beautiful for the Torah. That's kavod. We don't talk in the middle of reading of the Sefer Torah. That's kavod. Pages of Torah that were in a flyer, in a, I don't know, that somebody gave out, we don't throw it in the garbage. We put it in the genizah. We put it away in a box that eventually is buried. That's called genizah. And there are many such examples of how we give kavod to Torah, including the kavod to a Talmid Chacham who has the Torah with him. He comes in, people get up for him. So even a Talmid Chacham who is knowledgeable of Torah also gets the kavod of the Torah. What do we do with a Sefer Torah that one letter is missing? We also put it away. We try to fix it. I mean, one letter in the whole Sefer Torah is important. Yeah, unfortunately, not everybody realizes how important it is to give this kavod to the Torah. Even Talmidei Chachamim, rabbis themselves, are told to be careful with their kavod, that they better be dressed nicely, not dirty, not unkempt, because they are representing Torah, so they have to look decently. All of that is kavod for the Torah. So what is Rabbi Yossi telling us in this Mishnah? Bizchut, in the merit of an individual giving kavod to the Torah, he will receive tremendous kavod too. The way it works is like Mishle tells us, Kamayim panim lapanim ken lev ha'adam la'adam. Mishle, remember, if you remember, tells us that when you look at the waters, you see your reflection. So it goes with the hearts of people. What you feel towards someone, he feels towards you. It's a reflection. As long as you know each other for a long time, of course. You like somebody, he likes you. You don't like somebody, you can rest assured he doesn't like you either. After a while, the hearts communicate and everything is mutual. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide. In an intention you can hide. When somebody comes and tells you something, I sell you this as it is. You don't know if he's hiding or not, if he's concealing something or not. That's impossible to know. But whether a person likes you or not, how he is with you, people know. People know after a while, after they know each other for a while, they know, what you feel towards them, and that is how they feel towards you. So here, this is a form of reciprocation that Hashem is telling us, listen, you were mechabed the Torah, you will see that kavod returned to you, reciprocated to you by people. That will be a reflection of your kavod for it. The other way around. You will know that people are disgusted with this individual who's been disrespectful of the Torah. And it's all midah keneged midah, measure for measure. So we see it in this world too, not only in the world to come. But there's more to that. Rabbi Yossi is saying not only is there actually something happening in life to this individual who's mechabed or mezalzel, Gufo mechubad al habriyot means that there's something about this individual. If he is respectful of the Torah, that means there's a ruach tahara. There's a pure spirit, a purity in him that is reflected in this act, in his behavior. The fact that he relates to the Torah with so much kavod, that shows something about him. Or the other way around, if he's disrespectful, it shows something about him that's no good. His bad midot, his bad character. This is important when a girl and boy go out, especially. You can't know too much about each other. Very little. You're only seeing it. I mean, you did your homework, references and so forth, but what could you tell? If the boy begins to make fun and ridicule about certain segments of Jewry, these guys are like this, it says something about him. Be careful. It's a red flag. To me, it's a red flag. I believe in loving everyone, right? And not differentiating. And somebody who starts showing disrespect for any kind of human beings, that's no good. Anytime there's a major disaster in the world, in Bangladesh, they have monsoons, thousands of people are left homeless. I tell my kids, poor guys. Baruch Hashem, they haven't asked me, Daddy, how come you're concerned about them? Because I would have felt bad if I would have been asked that question. Because it's understood. These are human beings. At least in the way I taught them or communicated to them, there's no reason even to think about that question. It's understood that whether Hashem is upset or not, that's a different story. But for us, we have to feel bad for them. Poor fellows, they don't have the resources, the money to move. It happens to them every year. So we feel bad for them. A person who doesn't feel bad, it says something. So kol ha-mechalel tetro gufo mechulal. His guf, there's a ruach of tum'ah coming out from him. There's something not right coming out of him if he's capable of being disrespectful of Torah. Ultimately, what's the ultimate hypocrisy and zilzul of Torah? And what's the ultimate respect of Torah? The ultimate hypocrisy and disrespect of Torah is when a person on Simchat Torah dances with the Torah, and during the rest of the year he steps on it. How does he step on it? He desecrates the Shabbat. He steps on certain passages of the Torah. Sir, why are you dancing with it? I've told some people like that, in a nice way, of course. Can you tell me, how do you dance with something? Because you love it, but you're disrespectful of it, of what it says. Isn't that hypocritical? I don't understand it. I still need to get a good explanation for that, if you can help me out with this one. How does somebody dance with it and step on that later? Anyway, I don't think they know they don't realize what they're doing. So that's the ultimate disrespect. It's a hypocrisy. What's the ultimate respect? The greatest respect one can give to the Torah is if he learns it, if he devotes time to it. You ask a woman what's the most important thing that she'd like to have from her husband? Time. His time, attention. I think so. I think maybe by the Persians it's different. I think they all want time and attention, right? Besides your money. Your credit card. Yeah. Time. Hashem says, you love me, you love my Torah, give me your time. Show your devotion, spend some time with it, learn it. All right, next Mishnah. הרבי ישמעאל בן אומר, החוסך עצמו מן הדין, פורק ממנו איבה וגזל שבועת שווא וגס ליבו בהוראה, שוטה רשע וגס רוח. Rabbi Ishmael says there are times when people end up going to Bet Din, not court. You're not supposed to go to court if at all possible. You go to a Bet Din, a Jewish Bet Din. But you're supposed to try to avoid it and settle out of court as much as possible. Why? Because if you're able to settle out of court, you will save yourself three things. You will save yourself enmity. You won't be enemies. Because one is going to win, one is going to lose. You will save yourself gezel. Maybe there will be a mistake in court, and one will get what he's not supposed to get. And you will save yourself shvuat shav, an oath that may be a false oath. You may be swore falsely. So this Mishnah really is intended for both judges and for the Ba'alei Din themselves, for the people, the contenders themselves, the ones that are coming to court themselves. If you're able to spare yourself, to avoid going to the court, going to the judgment, porek mimeno, you will be able to avoid eva, enmity, hatred, gezel, ushvuat shav. Gezel meaning thievery, and shvuat shav, a false oath. Ve'agas libo, but one who is arrogant, talking about a judge here, says, I'm going to show them that I know the halacha, I want to prove to them how knowledgeable I am. He wants to show off that he knows how to settle this matter through hora'ah, through his knowledge of halacha. Shoteh, rasha, v'gas ruach. This is beautiful. I've never seen three adjectives together like that about an individual in the entire Pirkei Avot. Shoteh, rasha, v'gas ruach. A fool, a wicked man, and an arrogant man. Right? You know, like imagine saying to someone, both ahmak and achar and, and everything else together. Yeah. How would you say rasha? I don't really know. Is there a word for it?
Sharu.
What?
Sharu. Sharu.
Sharu? Narach Madinejad? Yeah. Anyway. All three. Gas ruach, maghrur. Right? Worse than that.
We also say shute.
Shoteh?
Shute.
Really? Yeah. Mm-hmm. How about kater? Huh?
What is it? No, water.
Yeah, kater.
Yeah, that is uncle, yeah.
Kater. Yeah, the female donkey.
Mule.
Yeah. The mule. Yeah. With a kuf, no? Kater.
What is that?
Or with a ka.
Donkey's uncle, no?
Yeah. With a kuf or with a ka? Ka. Kater. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Anyway, somebody who behaves like that, somebody who wants to look what they call him. They call him these names. In other words, don't make a fool of yourself. Why is he making a fool of himself? Because he doesn't mind having enemies. They're going to hate his guts. The one who's going to lose, of course. Rabbis tell us, Lo charva Yerushalayim ela mipnei shedanu din Torah. One of the reasons Yerushalayim, the second time around, was destroyed, because they went according to the Torah. Wow. What's wrong with that? Yeah, two people came to court, to the Bet Din. They want to know what the halacha is. They took out the Sfarim, and they said, well, the halacha is Reuven is right, Shimon is wrong. What's wrong with that? That's shedanu din Torah. What's wrong with that is because Reuven and Shimon remained enemies. Had you made a compromise before you began the case, they would have embraced, they would have settled, shook hands, and the judges would have continued to be friends to them, to the two of them. And if at all possible, before the case begins, obviously, not after the case begins and you already know who's right and who's wrong. Before the case begins, mitzvah, lechazer, to try to make a pshara, to try to make a compromise. No matter who's right, if you can, if it's possible, if they want to, you have to encourage them. Otherwise, the sinat chinam, the basis hatred, remains. That's what basis hatred is all about. Where did it all come from? They didn't try to make peace. Make peace. Try to settle your differences. Rabbis tell us, Tilech lefanim lifnei mishurat adin, if you need to avoid machloket. Lifnei mishurat adin means do not insist on your way or the highway. You know, even though you're right, the guy miscan, he can't pay you as much. Okay, fine, I'll forgive him half of it or whatever. It all depends on the circumstances, of course. But we should not always insist. Lifnim meshurat adin means go, I forget the exact translation in English. In other words, it's beyond the call of duty. In other words, you don't have to do it. In other words, you go lifnim meshurat adin. The shurat adin means according to the justice, according to the halakha, it's supposed to be this, and you go underneath it. You go behind it. You don't insist or demand that it should be the din, the halakha. You're willing to be flexible. You're willing to give in a little bit. To be levater. That's the right way. This is the right way of dealing with situations that sometimes are very difficult, because otherwise, what's going to happen in the Bet Din? The Dayanim, as knowledgeable as they may be, they can make mistakes. That could lead to gezel. There could be a shvuat shav, a false oath. When you make somebody swear, he's going to swear falsely, chas v'shalom. And there's going to be eva, there's going to be enmity, which is the worst of all too. Why not? Why not avoid that? So if at all possible, he tells him, Chosech atzmo min adin, if you avoid it, you're going to save yourself to all these three. But a person who's arrogant, it shows terrible character. I mean, he's a fool. He's a big fool for doing so. Rabbis tell us, Kol ha'ma'avir al midotav ma'avirim lo ha'pesha'av. Rabbis tell us a very important idea that one who is ma'avir al midotav means he doesn't insist on his way, he doesn't go according to his real nature. He's ma'avir al midotav. In other words, he passes over. He's willing to go along with other people's opinions, and therefore is is forgiving, Min Hashamayim, they will forgive his sins too. Because they say, look, he's forgiving. He's forgiving with people's debts, he's forgiving with people's insults. He doesn't insist always on having his way. We're going to forgive his sins. So it's a tremendous segula, tremendous power, or tremendous midah that this person has, that he's able to get from Shamayim for them to relate to him in the same way. That they will be ma'avir al his pesha'av, and his sins that he may have committed. He's forgiving, we'll be forgiving with him too. This is very powerful, very, very powerful. On the other hand, if he's makpid, if he's strict, they're going to be strict with him. So this is true also in the home, husband and wife. Why be strict? Why be demanding? Why be exacting? Some people have that in their nature, that's why. Be careful, because you only get a scar from it. Scars, emotional scars, from insisting on being right. Say, I'm sorry, what do you care? Even though you're right. You're going to save yourself a scar, 2 scars actually for the 2 of you. Why not do it? Sometimes we don't feel like it. In other words, it's hard. It's an ego problem. But what is the right thing to do? The right thing to do is to avoid confrontation, to avoid mahloket. It's healthier. Don't you want to do the wise thing? It's always that's always the better thing to do. Rabbis also tell us, Kol merachem ala briot, merachamim ala min hashamayim. Whoever has pity on others, they'll have pity on him. It's all the same thing. I mean, remember, in Judaism, it's very strongly emphasized, midah keneged midah. Everything is measure from Shamayim. So one who has pity on others is compassionate. He helps others. Shamayim, they're going to consider that too. All right. In one last small Mishnah, that is also a continuation from what we just said, Mishnah Chet. Don't ever judge by yourself. We have an odd number of judges because sometimes you're going to have 2 against. You need to have 2 against 1. I mean, you can't have an even number. But why not have just 1 judge? The Supreme Court here in this country, Lehavdil, has 9, right? 9 judges. You really want to have 9 people decide some major issues. Okay, that's fine. It's an odd number too. By the Torah standards, we had 23. We had 71, Sanhedrin. But the bare minimum is 3. 3, for certain things, 3 is enough. You don't need to have 23, which is more of cases of murder and the like. And when you had when you needed the full Sanhedrin, it was for major issues. You had to call on the whole Sanhedrin. So 3 is good. So what is he telling us over here? Alti dan yechidi. Don't judge by yourself. Yeah. What if the guy says, I can handle it myself? No. Don't do it. She'en dan yechidi ela echad. Only Hashem can be judged by himself. Can any human being say that he can handle it by himself? I mean, it's so easy to make a mistake. The more people you have, the more you can possibly figure out who's lying. You can possibly figure out all kinds of things that you wouldn't have thought about. So why do it yourself? Why put yourself in a situation where you may make a mistake? Ve'al tomar kablu dati, and don't tell them, listen to what I have to say. Shehen rashayim velo ata. If they want to, they can accept what you say, but you cannot impose it on them. One individual, one judge does not have that power, unless, and this is the big unless, they come to him and they tell him, Rabbi, we want you to be our only judge. We both accept you as the arbiter in this case. And it's one of those cases that is hopefully not too complex, or a case where he is a mumche ledavar. He's a specialist in this kind of things. But they both have to agree, yes.
But in our history, Moshe Rabbeinu was an individual judge. David HaMelech was an individual judge. They judged individually. They didn't judge as a collective. They judged
as a king. In certain situations as kings, they were if it was not a complicated situation. Shlomo Melech had a complicated case with the 2 women.
Yeah.
Right. In that, even if you would have had 12 or 13 judges, it might have been complicated just as much. That happened to demonstrate Shlomo's chokhmah, how much chokhmah he had, a gift from heaven, that he was able to discern certain things or to know. Whenever you had shoftim, judges or prophets, they had a certain koach, a certain power that was unique to them. The people on their own accepted it. They didn't necessarily impose it on them. Yeah, the king is different, of course. But even so, you're right. Even so, that the king may have power, he shouldn't do it anyway. Depending on the case, however. So what is the problem exactly over here? Why shouldn't he do it exactly? What can go wrong? When it comes to judgment, many things can go wrong. Number one, Adam karov le'atzmo. Rabbis tell us a person is biased. He's biased for anything that has to do with his own personal interests, if it affects him. He's not always objective. That's one of the weaknesses of the human being. And because of the bias, or the potential for bias, he is easily bribed. You know, when somebody says easily bribed, you may, I'm sure, encounter someone. I'm not bribed. You might bribe for $10,000, but what about $150,000? You know, some people's level of bribe is just higher. You know, you need more money to bribe them, but bribing has its way to infiltrate, you know, except for those who are extremely strong. No money in the world to buy me off. Yeah, there are some like that. But the average human being, at least, there's a 50-50 chance that you can bribe him, that if it's with the right, for the right price. So we have the ability of being bribed. We have the bias that does not only apply to oneself, but applies to one's own relatives. So you can't judge relatives. You can't judge anything that you may have an interest in it. So interest, relatives, bias, bribes, the human frailty, in other words, that man is not so knowledgeable that he can take everything into consideration to be able to make a sound judgment without making a mistake. So the rabbis tell us that Dayan doesn't have to be so concerned if he's going to make a mistake, because in la Dayan ela ma she'einav ro'ot. That all the judge has to consider what his eye sees, what his ears hear. He doesn't have Ruach HaKodesh. He doesn't have prophet. He's not a prophet. He can't know everything. He can't know who's always lying. Hopefully, there were some smart judges who knew who was lying. They can tell from experience. But not every judge has that ability. So because of the inherent weakness of the human mind, Alti dan yechidi. Don't take it upon yourself to, if it's a complex situation, unless they both want it, please help us figure this out. And it's not a complex situation, that's different. But they have to ask for it. Don't impose it yourself. Why not? Because obviously it's very easy to make a mistake. And therefore, the point over here is, that he's telling us, is to be extremely careful. To be extremely careful when it comes to judging others. Whether this is judgment in court, judgment in halakha, rendering the halakha, check it out. Read it before you, no, I remember from memory. I remember, sir, it's been 25 years since you last looked at that book. Check it out again. Don't be so overconfident. See what I mean? Very important Mishnah to tell people who would think, I remember by heart. Good memory. Some people do remember, but you can't remember all the details. Perhaps we forgot some. Perhaps this relates to something else. What will it take if you check it? Check it out. Take some time. Tell them to come back later or tomorrow. Don't you want to be sure? And even then, you're not 100% sure. But at least do your job. Judgment, therefore, is something that one has to be cautious. Kol shekin, the more so when we're judging people. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Husband judges his wife, the wife judges her husband. Why? People judge each other. Right? We're under all kinds of situations where we see all kinds of things happening. We're judging Hashem. Chaz v'shalom. Who are we to judge him? He knows better what he's doing. We have to be very careful. Do we really know? Can any person really know on his own? We're human beings. So that's something that he emphasizes here, that it's important not to forget, to be extra careful. We're only human. So therefore, if you want to be extra careful, bring along some more people to decide with you. Who's going to have this problem? A person who's arrogant. A person who's overconfident. He doesn't want to, because otherwise he shows that he needs the help of others. So this happens. People have this weakness. People are arrogant, people are overconfident, people are biased. Look at all the problems that people encounter. So So the rabbis have to remind, these are things that were important back then, are important, if not perhaps even more today. It's better that you avoid this kind of situations and always aim to settle things the proper way so that you can retain the friendship of the people, so that they will respect you, so that you will resolve their differences. Don't insist on your way. Look, beautiful ideas, beautiful suggestions, important things. Who will not follow this? One who's a fool. One who's an arrogant person, overconfident of himself, making mistakes. What a shame. It's written. If people learn these things, hopefully they will avoid them. But you know how many times people have learned Pirkei Avot, or they read through it and they still don't follow it. Because that's how strong the Yetzer Hara is. You know, a person who has the problem of arrogance, wow, kavod, it's like you haven't eaten for 2 days and you see a steak. How could you not touch it? How could you not eat it? The fork and spoon is there, nobody's watching. I mean, you're gonna swallow it. Yeah, but if you're told it's rotten, you're gonna get upset stomach or food poisoning from it. You're still gonna eat it? I don't think so. But some people don't think about it. Come on. It's still fresh. You see the color is still okay. Yetzer Hara, the ta'ava is fooling him. Then he regrets it. The thing is with this, it might be too late to regret. That is why the rabbis warn us, be very, very careful. She'en dan yechidi ela echad. The only one who is really echad is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you.
Baruch.